What are you even doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you not like logging this somewhere?
Maybe they like forking on those dating apps, but
Yeah.
I think someone's got to reconsider their life at this point.
Yeah, at least there are like tool choices, maybe not the whole career or life.
Just you do you, but I think you need to see someone. A few weeks ago, the Neptune team went to ICML and we asked several researchers what their biggest experiment tracking nightmare was when training large-scale foundation models. Today we're going to look at these answers, and trust me, some of them are absolutely brutal. Somebody said out of memory with a batch size equal to 1.
Yeah, sucks being GPU pure. Yeah, we know that one actually.
Yeah, exactly. I think I came across something very similar. I had like a batch size of 8, which wasn't that bad, but realized my sequence length was absolutely crazy long, and I just kept getting an and couldn't figure it out, and eventually saw in the training logs that the batch size was just a bit crazy.
But with size 1, I think it really sucks. Yeah, I feel sorry for whoever that was.
Yeah, I don't even think they were using a GPU. Maybe they forgot to say device, to device, and it was still on CPU.
Yeah.
Another one is the worst pain by far is auto-resuming large-scale training jobs with NVIDIA SLURM, currently using weights and biases.
I think, that explains a lot, right?
Yeah.
Do we need to comment on that?
I think everybody
doing serious research so knows what's our take on it. Yeah.
Exactly. Logs and metrics are randomly split across nodes, and your primary training metrics like loss or accuracy curves ended up on one random worker that didn't persist them.
What are you even doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you not like logging this somewhere? Like,
Maybe they're using an experiment tracker that doesn't work.
Well, yeah, you're using like tensor boards for your distributed training. Like, mate, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, we do have a free program for academics, I believe. So maybe if you're like really struggling, then you can use that.
Just reach out to research@neptune.ai and I can hook you up. Their biggest nightmare is not having enough GPU time.
Yes.
And that is absolutely true. Just trading for 1 billion tokens, you'd think it's not a lot, but looking at some of these models where they say they're training on 1 trillion tokens, and you're just like, that's crazy, that's massive, right? Yeah. So definitely a big nightmare is not having that. And these are academic researchers, so of course they're pretty limited to the resources they have access to.
Yeah, I think there's only so much you can do with limited GPUs. We both saw that, and I think you kind of have to pick your problems. Like there are definitely interesting research problems that you do analyzing these networks using the open source models. I think that the top labs are doing a decent job publishing them. Yeah. But then scalability wise, you have to be really like well equipped with GPUs to do some serious, especially pre-training.
Yeah. Every time I kick off a multi-node training run, the same nightmare hits. Every process logs separately, flooding my experiment tracker with duplicate runs, despite setting up rank-based logging guards. Something always slips, especially when the run crashes or restarts. What should be one clean log turns into a messy spiderweb of partial metrics and half-written checkpoints. Well, clearly they're not using Neptune.
Yes. That we know for sure. So it's completely on them. But it's just like really hard to see those things. Like, if you're doing like high stakes training, either like research or commercial, you kind of like and obviously like invested in the GPUs. Like why are you not using the software to like make good use out of these GPUs, right? Like why are you like using those, like half-baked solutions that are really not made for this kind of training?
I just think it's important that researchers are logging from multiple ranks, right? We've spoken to clients recently that they've such big distributed systems. But I saw as well is there's this lag between like doing particular parallelization techniques that it slows down the training. So they just want to train it and they'll merge after some point.
Yeah.
But they would be logging from all the different places. And you should be able to seamlessly and be able to track that, sum them up, aggregate within the experiment tracker. And that's exactly what they can do in Neptune.
Yeah. I mean, some you can reduce immediately to like rank 0, whatever.
Yeah.
Log, if you need to, right? And then obviously you need to do like it's a trade-off, right? Like sometimes you need it, but oftentimes, as you said, you can log through all these ranks and you can still get a sense of like whether the model is converging and whether the stability is there, right? And that's, I think, the most important bit in the pre-training course, at least. In evals as well, like if your evals are running in parallel, can log from multiple instances, and you just it all comes down to like splitting the work cleverly. Then it's actually an easier case, I think.
I agree. Someone's biggest nightmare on training foundation models is dating apps. Okay, well, get out there and
Good luck.
do what you need to do. If that's your from, I don't know.
I don't.
Maybe they like forking on those dating apps, but
Yeah.
they can't do a forking like they can on Neptune.
They cannot, yeah, and we cannot hold them either. That's not our business. But I'm sure, you can figure something out.
Yeah, exactly. SDCs. I don't know. Maybe this person and the dating app need to get together because I don't know what S sounds a bit dodgy here.
Yeah. We could look that up, but we're not going to, right?
Yeah,
we
I
have
don't want
other answers that are probably more interesting.
Yeah, here's one. Plots not loading for hours. Yeah. I've never experienced that when I was doing this project. Did you?
Yeah.
No.
Only when I use the other tool to compare.
Yeah.
I cannot name it in this context.
When we run benchmarks against other tools, then we know.
Yeah.
Async evals is their biggest headache. Well, I think we showed them how to solve that.
Yeah,
right?
we can show you a 10-minute demo, a 30-minute demo, and a 4-hour demo that covers that. So pick your poison, but there are solutions for what you're trying to do, and I think we know a lot about those. But it is a tough problem. Like if you are only like figuring that out now, I empathize with that, but it's not a tough solution, I think.
Agreed. Sorry, I already started laughing because I started reading another one and someone was just like, I don't confess my sins. Maybe Neptune should be a dating app and put this person in contact with the dating apps person and the SDCs person, Power outage is the biggest one. Must be someone from South Africa because we have a lot of load shedding there. But only South African people know that joke.
I think in a data center you probably have that more often than you'd think, like in all those clusters that are running, on-prem.
Yeah,
just you open your box from NVIDIA, you unpack it, and you run it, right? It's money. You need to use what you spend your money on.
Yeah,
it's a tough life.
Forgetting to share the ID across nodes and the runs log to separate things, most annoying ever. This person is not GPU poor there because they're clearly using a better distributed system than I had to. But I could see how that would be annoying, right?
Yes. So did they like instantiate a run on every node basically and from separately? Yeah. I mean, it is a valid use case, and I can see that being a pain. Yeah. But to be honest, that feels like something that should be got in our like first experiment, and then maybe not the one that you run for like a week on a 64 box 100 plus GPU cluster, right? Like,
yeah,
I think
agreed. Resuming is considered like a rerun by some training framework. And it's such a mess having partial loss curves and interpolate them by hand. Emoji with the sweat, the stressed face. I think what's that emoji?
Oh yeah. That's another like very common one. If you don't have forking like we do, you end up basic like forking in matplotlib with like all the metrics that is stitched together.
Yeah, like pulling all that data, but then you also have to ensure that the data isn't subsampled, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's subsampled. It's slow. And you have to stitch it by hand. So that's like 4 hours of researcher that is not working on your next experiment. Yeah, that sucks. Doesn't happen with Neptune, by the way.
Yeah. My nightmare is when multi-node distributed training run broke due to logging issues and ultimately led to the node disappearing. Hopefully not physically, that whole actually got stolen. I hope they mean that it was just in the tracker, but yeah.
Yeah. Was your data on that node? I hope not.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good one. Well, here's a long one. Someone said the dreaded checkpoint lottery, 7-day llama fine-tune crashes at 90% completion. My experiment tracker shows 847 checkpoints across nodes with timestamps that don't align. One node thinks it saved the best model at times at step 12,847, but its checkpoint is corrupted. A different node's checkpoint from step 12,846 loads fine, but the metrics suggest it's from a parallel universe where my model learned backwards. I think someone's got to reconsider their life at this point.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, at least there are like tool choices, maybe not the whole career or life, but I guess this one I see being very, very painful, but I think it all comes down to the organization. Like we talk about the global step, like if you have like one axis that is the global step and it's shared across everything,
Yeah.
then I don't see how you can potentially like mess up in such a big way, right? It's not going to be synchronized if you don't synchronize it yourself, but it doesn't really need to be if you're saving your checkpoints separately.
Yeah.
It's
But I also wonder if they're not saving the checkpoint to the experiment tracker, right? Which in most cases isn't really the best workflow.
Yeah.
Because yes, you can, and I tell this to clients a lot, that you can, but it's not built for that. It's not built for that scale. Like saving it to a dedicated place where it maybe won't get corrupted.
Yeah, it's latency
Is better.
mostly. Yeah, it's the big ICPs, the big customers that we talk with. They also do this exactly the same setup, right? You have a distributed cluster, you have Kubernetes jobs with like attached volumes, and the reason they don't save checkpoints is actually the latency, because it's very easy to just move data from memory to that volume attached to the same node, whereas S3 upload to Neptune, it's not designed for that, as you said. But the fact that they don't have a tracker that can reliably restore those checkpoint files, to me, that's unbelievable, and I think there's clearly something wrong. And I would love to talk to your ops person, or you, get in touch. It's interesting to learn more.
This one I think is very important. It's literally Wandb I think it's reinitialized.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a comment we can have there, right? Like,
yeah, I don't think it's nice for us to comment on our competition. I think people can, if you can say it for us, like if you have an opinion there. And it's not an objective opinion for us. I think for you, it's more of an objective opinion. So
agreed. And someone the nightmare was being bitten by a wildcat. Was this like the night before you answered this at ICML? Like, what are you dreaming? But it's okay, just you do you. But I think you need to see someone.
Yeah.
Cool. We experience a lot of those problems as well.
Maybe instead of sharing those on LinkedIn, we should do like a meetup in a pub somewhere in London and actually go for nose over a pint. That would be more suitable scenery.
And play a game. If you experience this training nightmare,
you take a shot.
Take a sip of
exactly.
water or a nice cold beer.
Okay.
But
we're gonna need to talk to our marketing about that. But I hope you enjoyed it. I think for us it's really fun to see some of those answers.
Yeah, I agree. And it was great to experience it ourselves as well.
Yeah, and we admire your courage to share those. It's really confessions.
Awesome.
Really.
Sweet. Thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed a little bit of that, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.